Alright guys, what is up? And today I'm coming at you with an updated deck profile to my barrier statue deck. This is kind of like my main, I guess you could say, quote-unquote competitive deck, even though it's anti-meta and anti-meta. People will say, oh, anti-meta's not competitive, it's just disgusting, rogue trash that belongs to table 500. But it's still a very consistent anti-meta deck at doing what it does and just curb stomping the meta to an extent. I've got some more playtesting in. I did take this deck recently to regionals in Houston a couple of weeks ago, and I did want to do a deck profile once I got back, but granted we did get back super late, which is kind of understandable, but like the next couple of days I didn't want to look at another Yu-Gi-Oh card just because it was that much Yu-Gi-Oh and kind of on an overload. But recently I have made a couple changes to the deck to kind of compensate with the update to the format. With a lot of the newer decks coming out, main ones being ABCs and to an extent Magic Specters. Because originally when I did build this deck, Magic Specters weren't exactly much of a threat, so playing the Wind Statue didn't exactly hurt too bad. I still do play it because I don't really see Magic Specters that often, but a couple people in my locals are starting to pick up Magic Specters, so this might be geared towards Magic Specters a little bit more. But yeah, I will go into detail about the newer cards and the different tech choices and things I play, and ignore the random Pokemon card. This is just like a token / divider between the main and side, because normally whenever I have decks that play an extra deck, I'll have the extra deck to divide the main and side, because they'll be in different sleeves, but that's not the case, because with this you don't need an extra deck at all. You could just throw in like some random fusions if you wanted to, just to confuse your opponent. So starting with the monsters, of course, the kind of standard barrier statue ratio, you play 6. I'm kind of torn right now between what I want to play. I want to maybe try 2 of the water statue, but Mermails are somewhat still the thing, and there are a couple people that do come to my locals from time to time that do play Mermails. Also Gameciel, so that would give them something to, because if you didn't know, whenever there's a barrier statue on the field, you can only attribute it for a kaiju if the kaiju is the same attribute. So like, say, if you have the fire barrier statue on the field, you can only attribute it for like the fire kaiju, Dogoron, I think it is. It's like one of the original ones that came out of Clash of Rebellions. But yeah, the wind statue is kind of debatable. Now, like I said, because Magic Specters are more of a threat now with Ties of the Brethren, and a lot more people playing card demise variants, and also with Secret Village of the Spellcasters being a thing, which really sucks. But again, just anti-meta. In this kind of deck, 9 monsters is, in my opinion, the perfect ratio. But the one thing I want to do is like either play an extra earth and extra fire, or switch to water. I may try 3 earth and 2 fire now, just because you don't hardly ever see fire, or hardly see ever fire or earth. I got them mixed up for some reason, I don't know. But you don't really see any earth or fire decks now. So these would be like better, just because they're a lot more versatile at being able to just like normal summon, set your back row, and essentially floodgate your opponent. So there's those. And then of course the pseudo barrier statue. Triple Falcon. Oh yeah, something else I forgot to mention. Whenever I did go to regionals, of course, me having my dumb luck, this is the only monster I drew game 1 in my 5th round, and of all the decks to go against, I had to draw this against Mecha Phantom Beast, which I thought it was really cool. It was a really neat little deck. I might actually try and playtest it just because the deck looks so cool. For like a really fun casual deck. He played like Karakuris with some other stuff with it. So he saw in Mecha Phantom Beast Mega Raptor, and I audibly said, "What the heck?" And everybody looked and just started laughing. And they're like, "Oh, you're playing barrier statues?" And then they saw he was playing Mecha Phantom Beast, and I only had the Wind Statue on field. So it was just like, whatever. But of course the Fossil Dyna, this is kind of standard. It's a pseudo barrier statue. Just summon it, your opponent can't special summon, so of course this is like one of the best monsters of the deck, so. And then the barrier statues are just kind of just there, just not as versatile. And then of course the staple in any barrier statue deck, Moon Mirror Shield. You can reset itself whenever it's face up, and whenever it's equipped to a monster face up and this gets destroyed, you just put it on top or bottom by paying 5. The only downside is the 500 effect is mandatory. So your opponent can sometimes play around if they have you in a tight spot, to where you're running low on card advantage, and they can just keep putting this back on top or back on bottom, depending on what your field looks like. More often than not, this is just really great. You summon up your monsters, equip it with this, and it can run over anything. You just kind of sit there and beat your opponent down with the Vanity's Emptiness. And then of course, the Heart and Soul of Stage 5, triple card Demise. This deck plays a ton of back row. So you get your monster out, equip it with Moonbreaker Shield, Demise for your back row and pass. It's should be pretty self-explanatory. And the next 3, Pot of Duality, just more draw cards. Because this deck doesn't have any search ability, so it relies on versatile draw power to get to its combo pieces, so that's the only downside to this deck, is that it doesn't have any search power, but it's understandable because you do have enough traps to essentially just floodgate your opponent, slow them down to your pace, so yeah, this is pretty self-explanatory. The next, triple Mystical Space Typhoon, because sometimes you do have to pop your opponent's back row, or if you just want to be that guy and you already have control of the board and they have the one spell or trap that's trying to slow you down. The main one that I play this for is Anti-Spell Fragrance, of course. ABCs are now with now a deck, so if you open with this and they go first and set Anti-Spell Fragrance pass, they draw, and then you chain this from hand, then you should be okay. But if they do Anti-Spell Fragrance you, then it's going to really, really slow you down, even though your deck's already slow enough as it is, but MST, it explains itself, it negates everything. Then one Upstart, just extra draw power. Not to make it a 39 card deck, but because this deck's actually 42, but I'll explain why later. The one Raigeki, just clear boards, actually came in really clutch at a fun local cash tournament. Went up against a guy playing Harpies. Game 1, he made Rafflesia, activated Hysteric Sign, and passed. And then I had this in the opening hand, just dropped it, and he was like, wow, it's dumb luck. And then he chose to go second, or to go first, game 2. Did the same shenanigans, made Rafflesia turn 1 to pass. I looked at my opening hand, I was like, I don't have it. Drew for turn, and then drew into Raigeki and dropped it. And he was a little salty, but he was still cool about it. But yeah, Raigeki, just in general, free board wipe is pretty good. And then my spicy tech, 2 Prohibition. Now, a lot of people will think, why are you playing Prohibition? But whenever you see this deck in action, you'll see why. Like, the main thing behind this is it's a Demise deck, so people are going to say, oh, your Demise deck loses to Twin Twisters. Playing 3 clogged really hard for me, so I played 2, and 2 I drawed enough to where you have, like, the ideal setup is, like, your Barrier statue with, like, a Mirror Force. It's equipped with Memory Shield, obviously. Some kind of summon negation, maybe, like, a Dark Bribe or a Phantom Knight Sword to protect it, and then negate 1 spell or trap. And then you play Prohibition so they can't Twin Twist your back row, which is stupid, but more often than not, you can also Prohibition other things. Like, in general, this deck already does Curb Stomp Cosmos after getting hit on the ban list, but you can also use Prohibition other random things. Like, I've had a couple instances in PK Fire matchups where I can have, like, one of these on field and they don't play Twin Twisters, they don't have any kind of back row removal. So, like, the one thing that deck does to slow this down is to, search out Fog Blade, then you can just activate this and call Fog Blade, and then normal summon your monster, and then they can't activate it, so it's like, it takes up one of their back row slots where they can't do anything with it, so it's really trolly, but just kind of like a really skillful tech. But more often than that, you're going to call Prohibition, or you're not going to call Prohibition, you're going to activate this and call, like, Twin Twisters or MST so they can't pop your back row. And then on to the other Heart and Soul deck, the massive amount of traps. 3 Phantom Knight Sword buffs up your barrier statues, and then protects them once from being destroyed by battle by card effects. So if they try to Raigeki it, then you just activate this and protect it. And plus this, on a Falso Dyna, having a 2k vanities that can't be destroyed once per turn, is just really nutty, in my opinion. And the next 3 copies of Dark Bribe, just again, more back row negation, because this deck, again, like I said, loses to Twin Twisters. And then getting your monster Raigeki also sucks, so why not just have more negations? Also really came in clutch one time playing against a guy playing Kaiju Mermails, and he tried to Kaiju Slumber me 3 turns in a row, and I just happened to draw into all 3 of these. And he activated Kaiju Slumber, Dark Bribe, and then he passed. Swung for 1,000, set 1, passed. He activated Kaiju Slumber, Dark Bribed it again. And then swung for 1,000 next turn, set 1 and passed. He Kaiju Slumbered again, the Dark Bribed it, and it was like so clutch, but yeah, this card in general is just like a really, really underrated card in my opinion that only really sees playing anti-meta, but in general you can still play it in just about anything. Just to negate like those really degenerate just kind of spells or traps. Like if they don't, like mainly Twin Twister your back row in any deck, it's just really bad. But yeah, just having a free negate for any spell or trap Granted, they do get to draw a card, but more often than not, you just play it to protect your board. And then 2 Quaking Mirror Force and 2 Blazing Mirror Force. I did cut Storming Mirror Force, but I did replace it with Floodgate Trap Hole. Because whenever I did draw Storming Mirror Force, anytime I played it, it just gave my opponent a monster to summon next turn, which, again, slows the game down even more, which I don't really want to do that. But I figured play Floodgate Trap Hole, because more often than not, it takes up a monster slot on their field. And then having a monster with Mirror Shield, you can just flip it face down and just run it over next turn, which is, again, pretty annoying. To where that they're trying to have to go into that certain monster to break your board. And then you just Floodgate Trap Hole it, which is pretty trolly. And then Blazing Mirror Force, it kind of speeds the game up a little bit, because this deck is slow, and you're only going for like 1,000 a turn, unless your opponent's absolutely bricking pretty hard, and you're attacking them with multiple barrier statues, or an extra Fossil Dine every turn, or like a Fossil Dine with 2k. So just burning it for a little bit extra damage just kind of speeds the deck up a little bit. And then Quaking Mirror Force is best Mirror Force. And then 2 copies of Powerful Rebirth, kind of your call to Haunted the deck. Pretty degenerate whenever your opponent reggags a barrier statue and you have this set. The barrier statue goes to grave, and then you activate this. And then summon your barrier statue, and they're like, well, I can't play Yu-Gi-Oh! And then scoop and go to the next game. But yeah, this is, I'm not sure if I explained it in the last deck profile, but this is better than the Call on this deck. If you don't know what Powerful Rebirth does, you activate it by targeting a level 4 or lower monster in your graveyard, special summon it, increase its level by 1, attack and defense by 100. And then whenever that monster gets destroyed, destroy this card, so yeah, if they have this on the field and they don't know what it does, they just try to like MS your Twin Twister, it goes to grave, but your monster's still there, and they're like, okay, why doesn't it go to the grave? Because they think, well, it's just the same thing as Call the Haunted. Well, it's not. So like if they activate Twin Twisters and then you chain this, you just summon your monster back and then clear up back row for more demise degeneracy. So yeah, that's why I like it better than Call of Haunted. The 1 Solemn Warning, just a summon negation, it's pretty self-explanatory. Now this card is debatable, but 2 Chaos Trap Hole. Because not every matchup you're going to go up against is light and dark, but now that ABCs are a thing, I still kind of want to main this, but it kind of sucks whenever you draw this and like Magispectre or Mermail matchups, because then it's dead. You can't really do anything with it except for just let it sit there and look you in the face and say, hey, I'm useless right now. But just getting a lighter dark monster summon for 2k and banishing it is still pretty good, especially in the ABC matchup, because once you have your board set up, the only thing you can hope to do is search Assault Core or stall with, it's either Buster Drake or Crush Wyvern, the one that has 2,000 defense. They can hope to just stall with that, or just keep looping your Assault Core. If they have one in grave, you can just add it back and slowly have a 1900 beat stick until you get your board set to where you can just keep running it over and over, but you get the gist. This card's good. Now, normally I don't show my side deck, but since this is a competitive deck, I'll explain my side deck choices. This one is really disgusting, but 2 Banisher the Radiance. Yeah, this card, yes, it does screw you over, but it'll screw your opponent over even more, because this deck doesn't really go off the graveyard. The only time this sucks is if you discard monsters off a card demise, which more often than not you won't. You will have the back row 2 set, and just kind of evade that cost of sending to grave. Really, really trolly when you have this Okuda the Moon Mirror Shield, so you just roll over anything and then it gets banished. And then back up with a barrier statue to where they can only summon 1 attribute. Whatever they said, it's going to get run over and then get banished, and then you're going to have the back row to just either protect this or slow them down even more, so it's just really disgusting, but just really, really good if you're wanting to play this deck. Then 2 System Down, because Alphabet Soup deck. 2 Dark Holes from just more generic board wipes. 2 Twin Twisters, because sometimes you do have to get rid of extra back row, and if your opponent's maining anti-spell, then they leave this, and assuming that they leave this in, if not, you just clear through those fog blades and things like that, so just helps you clear through more of that back row that slows you down. 2 Magic Drain, again, more answers to Twin Twisters. Also against other random spells, like say against ABCs, if they try to Like, say, if you're up against, say, ABCs and they try to activate their Union Hanger to search the monster that they need to kind of slowly deck, then you can activate this and just either make them pitch a card or just get a free negate. So this card, in general, is really great, in my opinion. And next, triple Mask of Restrict, mainly for Magic Specters. But this is another reason I want to try and play the Water Barrier statue, because if you have this backed up with, if you get some of the Water Barrier statue backed up with this, they can't Gamma Seal. Which is pretty annoying, but, yeah, just in general, this one of the deck's roughest matchups is Magic Specters. So you just activate this and it turns off their traps, which is like the main thing they need to win, is to, slow you down with their traps, and they slowly beat you down. And then, last but not least, 2 copies of Shadow Imprisoning Mirror. Just PK Fire. It's kind of a whoever wins the die roll kind of thing with this deck. If you win the die roll, then you're probably going to beat the deck. Unless you brick, but more often than not, you're going to be able to beat them. Really funny story. At a local tournament. I was playing up against PK Fire, and I ended up finishing the duel 2-1. And I ended with this on board: a Banisher of the Radiance, a Fire Barrier statue, equipped to the Moon Mirror Shield, and a set Phantom Knight Sword, and a set Dark Bribe, which it was just like auto win against that deck. They couldn't do anything. But yeah, just again, in general, it's for PK Fire, and plus against random dark decks is kind of decent. But yeah, that's basically it for the updated deck profile. Going forward, I think this deck is still a really, really great anti-meta deck. It has seen a couple tops here and there, but more often than not, if your opponent doesn't know how to play around it, or if you just draw like the absolute nuts, then you should be in a good situation. A lot of people will just say like, oh, this deck takes no skill, it's just an anti-meta deck, all you do is summon, demise, step 5, and pass. That's not entirely true. Sometimes you will, or a lot of times actually, you need to know how to properly maintain your resources and your card advantage, otherwise you can easily just like lose the game if you don't know what to protect, when to activate certain cards at a certain time, and things like that. So yeah, that's basically it. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the deck profile. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below this deck. Yeah, I don't know where that came from, but yeah, I will be updating this deck later on in the future, just because I think this deck is still really, really good. Really Choing kind of has given me the reputation at locals of playing stage 5 high rarity cancer anti-meta deck. Really Trolling has done fairly well so far. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the deck profile. Thanks for watching, and as always, I will catch you guys later.